for another movie review. I apologize. I know it's been a while since I made any kind of video, not just a review, but just a video in general. But last night I went and saw the new film, Real Steel, starring Hugh Jackman and Dakota Goyo, and it's the new Rock'em Sock'em Robots movie, basically. Going into the movie was expecting to hate it because I thought the commercials and the trailer made it look really cliched, very predictable, and the fights just kind of looked lame, and I didn't really dig the whole concept. That being said, I was optimistic because, you know, Hugh Jackman usually picks good roles, but I'm still kind of nervous because the directors directed some pretty crappy movies like Night at the Museum and stuff like that. So going in, I was very, very skeptical. My prediction was right because Real Steel, for me, is one of the worst movies of the year. Real Steel is about Hugh Jackman, who plays a guy named Charlie, who's just the definition of an asshole. I mean, he owes like 60 people money. He has a kid that he's never met. He doesn't really care about. He's only thinks for himself. He's selfish. He makes others do stuff for him. So he's just an ass. And one day his ex-girlfriend dies, and he finds out that he has this son that he hasn't seen pretty much ever, and he's like 11 years old. And he ends up inheriting him from his ex-girlfriend, and then basically while he's trying to pay back all these people and trying to win this tournament, he has to have the burden of this kid, and this kid, you know, is disrupting him, and then of course, you know, he and the kid bond and get along and yada yada yada. Real Steel is just cheesy, boring shit. I mean, that's all I can really describe it as. I mean, the movie, I hated the movie walking out of it, and now, because I saw it yesterday, and thinking about it, I don't hate it as much as I did then, but I still think it's a bad movie, and it has many problems. One, I think the biggest problem of the movie is that you're supposed to be rooting for Hugh Jackman's character and the son, and you kind of root for the son because even though he could be a little bit annoying at times, you still kind of get where he's coming from because he has reasons to be annoying and reasons to be mad at Hugh Jackman because, you know, he hasn't seen him. But wow, is Hugh Jackman unlikable. I mean, there's the two guys that tell him about how his ex-wife died. She's like, you remember whatever so-and-so? He's like, oh yeah, that's my ex-girlfriend. He's like, she's dead. He's like, oh. And then they talk about his son. He's like, you have a son, Max, whatever. And he's like, she dead too. And you're like, wow, you do not seem to give one F that these two people that are your own freaking blood have just died or potentially died. So I couldn't get over that, and he is just an ass throughout the movie, and he does things where you're like, wow, and he is not a real human being. He is Satan. Okay, maybe not that bad, but he's just unlikable throughout the whole movie, and when you're trying to be rooting for him near the end, it doesn't work, at least for me. So that's, I think, the biggest problem of the movie is the hero is a guy that I hate. Also, the movie is incredibly boring. Like, it's, I think, 2 hours, and it definitely feels like that because I was just never entertained. For the last fight scene, the last final robot versus robot thing was kind of exciting, kind of entertaining, and definitely the crowd I saw it with loved it. But besides that, the robot fights are decent. They're definitely the most entertaining thing in the movie, but they are still pretty bland, and everything else is just manufactured, cliche stuff. I mean, it's like him bonding with the kid doesn't want to bond with him, he doesn't like the kid, he has a girlfriend or an ex-girlfriend that he doesn't care about either, but they also will get back together, you know, and he has the cliched villain who he owes money, and he comes back later in the story. It's cliche after cliche after cliche after boring after boring after boring after boring. Did I mention that it was boring? That's another huge problem. A movie with fighting robots should not be boring. I said the same thing with Cowboys and Aliens. When your movie's called Cowboys and Aliens, it should not be boring. I found it too long. I know I said it was boring, but I also found the movie too long. Like, it's about 2 hours, and you know what's going to happen, but they really try to develop this father-son thing, which you don't give one F about, and the movie just drags and drags and drags, and the pacing is really off for me. All in all, Real Steel is just a boring, unexciting action movie, or sci-fi action movie. It's a movie with little soul, no real characters that you like, and it's just freaking boring, and it's definitely one of the worst movies of the year. It's probably in my top 5. Definitely, it's worse than Bridesmaids, it's worse than Sucker Punch, it's worse than other movies that have come out this year. I wouldn't say it's bad as Season of the Witch, which is still probably my #1, but it's definitely in the top 3 or 5. I'm going to give Real Steel 1.5 out of 5. I did enjoy it. Some people might like it because my crowd really enjoyed it a lot, but I really just didn't like it at all. So it's up to you. If you like Hugh Jackman, he has a shirtless scene, so that might be a plus for some people, but for me, I couldn't care less about this movie, and I don't recommend it. So Real Steel, 1.5 stars out of 5. Thanks for watching. Subscribe below. Check out my channel, and check out my other videos if you like the one right now. So thanks for watching, and see you guys later.